Hi, today I'm here to talk about the evolution of my belt and guitar making career. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jan Hibbard, and I started making belts back in 1977 when I started doing leather work. Belts were one of the first things that I started making and still continue to be one of my best sellers today. And they really, all the inspiration between all of them really started with these two books that I got way back then. They're both by a man named Paul Burnett. And what these really taught me is how to line up the pattern to make a geometric design. And so how to line it up, how to put it on the page. And so the very beginning, how you scribe lines, how you measure things in between the parts and things like that. So that's what inspired me. The problem with that was, though, that most of the tools that mentioned in these books were not things I had. I had similar tools, but I did not have the exact same tool that was in there. So I had to improvise and change the patterns up a little bit using the tools I had. So, for example, this pattern here on this belt is what inspired this pattern on this belt. And this belt was made, again, 1977 for my dad, I believe. And again, so it's a different width. This is 1.5 inches wide in the book, or 1 3/4 wide. And this is 1 1/4 wide. So, a quarter of a half an inch difference. So that obviously affected the oval. Instead of being an oval, round, it became squatty because it was a narrower pattern, things like that. So right from the get-go, I really started making my patterns myself and so forth. So that hasn't changed. A long time ago, I used to make pattern cards so that I could duplicate the pattern and so forth. So I would repeat the same patterns over again. Those went out a long time ago. Now all my patterns are one of the kind. They're made on the fly. In all honesty, I have one of them. There's a few certain patterns that I repeat over and over again. I don't have it here with me, which is called Meadow Flowers. And it's just a wildflower design. So every one of them are different, but they have flowers and, the leaves and vines and stuff like that. And so those have always been very popular. So that's one design that I still make. Again, all a little bit different each time you make it. So that's one of the things, again, has changed. I don't use pattern cards. The thickness of my leather has changed over the years. What I used to use a long time ago was, I think I said, it was 7 8-ounce leather. Then I went to 8 9-ounce leather. Now I use 9 10-ounce leather. Much thicker than that. It's almost too stiff for a belt. And of course, I just moved the piece of belt leather. So this is belt leather. And so it is fairly stiff to begin with, but it's going to turn soft and buttery like this one is as time goes on. And again, it's going to age pretty well for being almost 50 years old. That belt. So again, and I still wear it. It was my dad's. My dad has been gone for a while, so I have been wearing it since then. But the thickness of the leather does make a difference in being rugged. Some people ask for even heavier than that, but that would be somebody who carries a lot of things, like an officer or what, that carries guns and holsters and things that are heavy on their belt and so forth. So sometimes they want a little bit thicker, which I can get if, for custom orders and stuff. It depends. But you could certainly inquire about that. My belts come in widths from 3/4 of an inch, narrow, up to 1 3/4 inch. You can get anything in between. I custom fit them. Those are things that haven't changed. One thing that has changed with the belts years ago, like on this has a snap here. I don't use snaps because snaps can break. If the snap breaks, then the belt is no good. All my belts still do have removable buckles. So if you have fancy buckles, which I did sell years ago, I do not sell those anymore, you can put them on. Right now, I use what's called a belt screw that unscrews on and off. Worst case scenario, if you lose a screw, it can be replaced. If you ever need another screw or whatever, just email me and I'll send you one. So that's another option because you have the removable buckles. When you order a belt, you also get a choice of buckle styles. This is more my rectangular shape. And the center bar buckles like this one is. I have an oval shape, and then I have what I call the horseshoe shape. It's oval on one side and flat on the other. So, and those you'll see online, brass or nickel over brass finish. So you have those choices. Guitar straps, again, are not as thick a leather as that because then it would be really stiff. It is a 4 or 5-ounce leather, so it is a little bit thinner. That's where the guitar straps are cut from. Guitar straps, of course, what makes mine superior is that they have that 1/2 inch of foam padding that goes in between the layers. And then the lining is also a beautiful leather. Everything other than the foam, it's 100% leather. and the rivets, the screws. I use upholstery leather because it is waterproof. It is stain resistant, sweat resistant. It's going to last pretty well. And now the only thing I do offer suede lining if you want that too. The only difference is the strap might slide around on your shoulders. So if that's the case, I also offer the curved style strap that contours to your back, keeps it off your neck, and is going to keep it in place and so forth. So that with this kind of lining is an absolute perfect for like a bass player, something that's, Les Paul, something that's very heavy. That works is superior, and it does keep it from rubbing on your neck. So those are some things, again, over years that I've perfected kind of because of what musicians have told me, and they really do love my straps. The other thing that also was unique about my straps is you can have them engraved or your initials, something like that, customized. You tell me the length you want your strap. They do adjust. They have about 8 inches. They have slots that adjust, and you can adjust it either way at the end. That you can, you tell me when you order a strap, I'm going to email you and say, what length do you wear your strap now? Is that the length you want the new one? Long or short, and I will make the adjustment so it's going to be in the range of what you want. So you'll have, I'll kind of set that for the center so you can go bigger or smaller. Same thing I do with a belt. When you tell me the size of a belt, which has to be specific, it's not your belt, your waist size, or not your pant size. You need to measure your waist, and the center hole of what you tell me is the center hole on your belt, or what you tell me for the waist measurement. That's your center hole. So you have adjustments either side. So those are things, again, it's customized, it's personalized, it's going to fit and perform for you the way you want it to. So those are some things that will never change. Again, as far as, putting logos on, I do have an engraver now, which is something I got in 2020. So before I can like stamp letters on, or I can carve letters in for like initials. But now I might have the ability to do a logo. Depends on if you can get me a certain kind of pattern that I can use and so forth. I may have to play with it a little bit, but I may be able to do a logo on there. And I don't really charge a whole lot more for that. I mean, the logo, if I have to play for a long time, it might be a little bit more, but not much. So those are some things that make it different. The other thing with my belts that makes them different is I burnish and bevel the edges. This is just a straight raw edge. That would be uncomfortable on a belt. So these are rounded off, they're beveled, they're burnished, rounded off. And then they have something called burnisher. This is a mini one that I take to shows because when I custom fit your belt, I redo the edges, and this is to burnish the edge. So again, the belt is run through this to smooth off the edges where I cut it and trim it and re-bevel it to round it off when you buy the belt. Again, this is unfinished raw strip, so none of that has been done to it. So those are things that make it special. Next, I'm going to take you for a minute over to my skiver. My skiver is a machine that will thin out. If this was going to be, again, a belt, and this is where the buckle goes, this leather is really stiff here. And so if that's where your buckle is going to go, it is going to be pretty bulky on the end. You can see the difference here that this one, you can't even see the bulk in there really. Big difference. So skiving this is going to thin it out just in that spot, just at the bend there a little bit. So it'll be, you can see the difference here that this one, you can't even see the bulk in there really. Big difference. So skiving this is going to thin it out just in that spot, just at the bend there a little bit. So it'll be more comfortable when it bends. And so on this piece of something I skive, but I'll do a little demonstration. See how it's almost paper thin there now. And that's not what I'm going to do for a belt. I'm just going to skive a thin layer. I'm going to skive about that much off the back of this to make it just a little more pliable so it will bend there. So I'll show you that. This is a machine used to thin out the leather for the belts for the buckle end. So basically it kind of works not all that different. Some sewing machine, it has an arm here that goes up and down. You adjust it for the thickness of the leather. You put the leather underneath. The presser, this is a knife here. It's a Bell Skiver, it's called. It's a circular knife blade, and it's going to rotate, and it's going to trim off just a little piece of this. So you pull the piece through and see now that skive the entire end almost to paper thin. Okay, next, again, so those are some of the things that will not change with my, belts. The thickness has changed. The place I buy my leather now, I didn't mention that. I now buy my leather from a place called Weaver Leather. I no longer can go into Boston and hand pick the hides, different people. I don't even know if the company's there anymore. Weaver Leather in Ohio has been my go-to leather company for quite a long time now. The leather is absolutely beautiful. This is the front of the leather. This is the back of the leather. It is nice and smooth and finished, and it is very beautiful product. I've never been displeased with anything I've gotten from them, and so forth. And this is all eco-friendly leather for the belt and the guitar straps. The lining leather again is not as eco-friendly because it's waterproofed and so forth. Sourced from U.S. hides and things like that, where it can be. And so that's, over the years, looking back, my career has evolved. I've reminded, that I really love making the leather products. I don't know what I would do if I could not. I love tooling the designs. I really enjoy that. Once I pick up the tools, it just kind of flows from there. People ask me what inspires my designs. It's just the tools themselves. And I just pick up a tool and that inspires me. Again, thanks for watching me. If you're interested in finding out more about my journey or you're interested in my products, I have new belts and guitar straps coming out each year and so forth. They're mostly one of a kind. So if you join my email, become a VIP, you'll find out when new lines are coming out and new products and so forth like that. And you'll be the first to see them. If you're on my email list, you always get first dibs, which again, because they're literally one of a kind, you want to, if you're interested, you want to hop on it. And again, the information to join my email will be down below this video. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.